Nickester and his wife Lori a couple years ago in Houston, Texas at a Multifamily Investor Network conference. And I'm so happy to have made the connection. Rob is the co-founder of Sentinel Equity Group, LCC, a Marine Corps veteran. He spent 25 years in corporate technology as an infrastructure architect, is that right? And has been investing in real estate since 2001, growing his portfolio to over 9 figures in assets under management today as a syndicate investor. It is my honor to interview Rob today to share about his story, the mindset that has gotten him to where he is today, and more about his new venture, Inspirex. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate it.
And can you walk us through your journey from facing hardship at just 5 years old to building the resilient mindset that has led you to managing over 9 figures in assets today through your syndicate acquisitions?
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So basically, at age 5 years old, I experienced a life-altering accident when I was struck by a car. Doctors doubted that I'd recover fully, but that experience ignited an unwavering determination with me. I learned resilience, endurance, intense physical rehabilitation, overcoming such adversities that things that taught me mindset shapes reality. This lesson became foundational, driving me to excel in every challenge I faced. So basically what happened is I got off a school bus. I was running to see my mom, and she had opened the front door, and I got off the school bus and I took off running across the street at 5 years old, and a car went around the school bus and hit me at 58 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh.
So what it did is it collapsed my lungs. It gave me what's called a myocardial contusion, a blow to the heart. So it caused a mild heart attack, shattered my elbow, broke my arm, broke my hip, and it collapsed my lungs. I don't know if I said that. I think I might have said that in the beginning. But yeah, intensive care in the hospital for 3.5 months, and then a body cast for about 9.5 months after that, and then a full year of physical therapy after that.
You're lucky to be with us.
Absolutely. And, I really do believe that event is what shaped me to the resilient person I am today, to never give up, live every day to your fullest, never stop trying because it could be your last, as well as the strength I have to get through things. It was pretty intense.
I imagine. And for your mom too, for your parents too. It seemed like you all had to get through that together.
Absolutely. And I just, as a parent myself, my kids are grown now. I cannot imagine, my mother, I remember it pretty clear, opening the screen door and looking at me and making eye contact and then just watching my child get hit by a car like that.
Yeah.
That was horrifying.
It's every parent's worst fear. One of them, anyway, I think. And what pivotal habits did you have to adopt from then? So you that happened at 5 years old. You were in the hospital for 3 months. And then from there, how long was your road to recovery?
It was 2 years total.
2 years.
Yep. 2 years total. I got held back in high school. I got held back in school because I was actually in kindergarten. So I was 5 years old. So I missed pretty much the rest of the whole year. Yeah. So I repeated kindergarten over again because I'd only been there a few months. And then obviously physically the road to recovery was long. But, that's where I got my strength and resilience. And I was determined not to let anything hold me back. There's a few key moments I remember in the hospital with the doctor and my father, where the doctor and my dad were having a conversation. I was kind of sitting there and it was like I wasn't even there, right? They're talking about me and the doctor's telling my father things that I can't do anymore, that I need not to do. And he's sitting there telling my dad, yeah, he'll probably never run again. Wow. He'll probably never bend his elbow the same again. He can't do this. He can't do that. And that was where I really was kind of paying attention. And they had just cut the cast off of my arm because I had a cast as well as a body cast from the chest down. I had a cast on my arm down to my wrist, from my shoulder to my wrist. And they had just cut the cast off. And he's like, yeah, he'll never bend his arm completely again. And I'm like, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Right. And that was where I was like, you're not going to tell me what I can or cannot do.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a 6.5-year-old, 6-year-old kid at this point, and the doctor's like, he can't run again. I'm like, watch me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of how I felt. And that was kind of that mentality I instantly had where you're not going to tell me that I can't do something. Let me try first before you even say he can't do this.
Right.
So, it was rigorous self-education surrounding me, that I committed to and not being told I can't do something.
Instead of accepting their beliefs.
Right. I couldn't believe the doctor was saying he'll never do this again. How do you even know? I've just got the cast cut off. I
Well,
get it. They kind of assumed
yeah.
that I didn't heal like I did, but I was blessed. I mean, after that incident, I went on to be an athlete, a really good athlete in a lot of sports in school. I was, one of the fastest kids in my high school in track and football, and I did all those things. As you know, and you mentioned, I went on to become a Marine
You have to
and
be
a police
physically,
officer after that.
yeah, you have to prove that you're
Hmm.
physically fit for that. So if you would have listened to that doctor when you were 6 years old, you wouldn't have been an athlete and you wouldn't have went on to the Marine Corps. If you would have accepted that diagnosis instead of deploying resilience instead in that sort of watch me position that you took, it seems like, I bet you wish you could find that doctor now and tell him about all the things you were able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that is really the power of mindset. That's where the power of mindset, maybe I got my first taste of it, is if you would listen to somebody who says, you can't do this. If I had listened to that, I might not even have tried.
Right.
Right. And so how would you know what you can accomplish if you never try? But that was, and maybe it's one of those things as a child, as a rebellious thing, like you're told you can't do this. And so I was going to go, yes, I can. And that kind of instilled in me, watch me.
Yeah. And that seems maybe where the momentum might have started for you. The mind
I
building
agree.
that
Yeah.
mind muscle and the momentum. Okay, well, they're saying, I can't do this, watch me. And you do that thing, and then something else, another obstacle, and then watch me. And then it
Absolutely.
kind of started from there, and then you got the momentum that kind of maybe just snowballed, right? And it propelled you to where you are today.
It did. And it became kind of an obsession with me. And mainly because rightfully so, grandparents, my parents were worried about me because they had almost lost their son. And so for probably till the time I was 14 or 15, maybe even later, they were constantly, don't do this. You're going to get hurt. You can't do that. You're going to get hurt. And it was like they were overprotective of me. And that just fueled me.
Yeah.
Like, cause they were constantly telling me what I could not do and my limitations. I mean, for years. And so I basically programmed my mind when anybody said you can't, I was going to prove I could.
Yeah, I love that. And so, what pivotal habits did you have to adopt to consistently execute and achieve such monumental growth targets with your real estate acquisitions?
So daily discipline, goal setting, constant self-reflection, and constantly challenging my comfort zone. I adopted rigorous self-education, surrounding myself with high achievers and committing to incrementally improving my daily habits and my perfection. Now that came a little later in life, not necessarily through high school, but those were some of the habits I picked up, not knowing I had picked them up as a youngster, that I started doing some of these things, but I may not have understood what I was doing. And as I got older and started learning about this stuff, I was able to define my behavior.
And was it did anybody ever say that you couldn't
All the
achieve
time.
9 figures in assets? And was that another sort of resounding watch me?
All the time. It wasn't so much that people. So I went through this phase in high school where everybody, and, I don't talk about this a whole lot, but where I came from, the money my parents had, we didn't have a lot of money. I wasn't a great student. And it wasn't because I wasn't smart. It was that I kind of had ADD. And back in the 70s, if you had ADD, you were just too energetic. You were a trouble child because you couldn't focus. I had too much energy. And so I was a problem child, right? And I really wasn't. I didn't really get in a lot of trouble or anything like that. But everybody had decided because I wasn't a great student that I wasn't going to be anybody. They already knew my future before I did. They just determined that I was going to be a loser. And so that really got me into the mindset of, I can be more than people think I am. But they, growing up, I was never given that opportunity. People had already decided they knew who I was before I knew who I was.
And you had already adopted the mindset of watch me even at that point. So I'm sure you have a teacher saying that. I mean, you're so resilient because of everything that's happened so far. It seemed like it was easier for you to say, watch.
What's funny is
watch me.
I actually have a story kind of directly related to that, it's just something that you don't forget. I don't hold any grudges or anything like that, but I almost didn't graduate high school. And it was because I wasn't there most of the time.
Yeah.
Right. I was kind of like, this is boring. It's wasting my time. Now I look back and it was because I just wasn't interested. I didn't put my energy there. I put my energy other places. But, I was a few credits shy my senior year, right before my senior year. And I wasn't going to make it. And so I decided, well, I got to graduate high school. I can't not graduate high school. So I signed up for night school. And I think I filled my day as a senior, which most people don't have to do, right? They usually have a lot of study halls and things like that, at least back in the, early 90s, late 80s. I filled my day with classes to catch up. And then I took night school, and I think 2 or 3 credits I had to do at night school. I signed up for all this, and I did it right at the beginning of my senior year. And I'll never forget, my guidance counselor called me in, told me I wasn't going to graduate. And I told him my plan. I said, well, this is my plan. This is what I'm doing. And he said, that's commendable, but I'm just telling you right now, you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to fail and you're not going to graduate. So good luck. And that was pretty much it. And I'll never forget it because I just couldn't believe it. Like, you're supposed to be a mentor. You're supposed to be somebody helping me and encouraging me. And you just told me I was going to be a failure.
He had already given up.
He'd already given up on me. And now I had a few other teachers that were really amazing that encouraged me and pushed me and helped me my senior year because they saw what I was doing. And then when I walked across that stage and I did graduate high school, it was one of those things where as I passed that guidance counselor, I paid attention. I was waiting for some type of acknowledgement. He just looked the other way.
Wow.
So, but that's one of those things I carry with me. It's like, you know what? I don't need your approval. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those situations where he thought he knew who I was going to be and what I was capable of. And I said, no, you're wrong. Here, let me show you.
Watch me. I'm going to hear, that's going to be with me all week now. Watch me.
Watch me.
Watch me. And as you continue scaling, what do you have your sights set on now? What's your next benchmark in investing and now with Inspirex?
So I'm currently close to around 800 doors, around 6 apartment complexes, 3 car washes, my ventures, and working on some land development deals. And I will continue to work on all those things because I think it's very prudent financially to try to create that passive cash flow and generational wealth. It has been definitely a struggle with the past few years with interest rates. Prices are really high. Interest rates are really high. People in the past few years have bought or bit off more than they can chew. As you know, in the multifamily world, people buy with a price too high, interest rates really low. Now all those, with
the adjustable rates.
With the adjustable rates, even though, so what a lot of people do is, in multifamilies, they buy a property and then they get a 36-month loan that's interest only so that they can fix the property up. Right. And then back in 21, 22, you were getting loans at 3.5%, 4%. And they didn't account for the market and what it's doing. And they overpaid, which is why when we did our due diligence, if it didn't pencil out, I wasn't going to get creative. Right. If the deal's not penciling out, I'm not doing it.
You're not trying to peek around the corner.
Yeah. Right. And too many people got creative. They're like, oh, the property's going to appreciate. Well, now they're foreclosing by the dozens because property values have went down, rents have went down, interest rates have went up, and so they have to refinance because those loans are coming due
And it's
36
gotten,
months.
yeah, and it's gotten
And
a
they
little more difficult to refi.
right.
The
Well,
game,
considering interest rates are 7-8% doesn't work. And so they either have to come up with a lot of capital or they get foreclosed on. And so that's happening with a lot of deals. So that has actually caused me to be more cautious, and my deals are operating very well. We're not losing any money. Some of them are cash flowing. Others aren't. They're cash flowing, but we're not paying out disbursements, right, to investors, but they're not losing money.
yeah.
So it's coming. So those deals are doing really well. So I'm still working on, new deals coming up. I'm working on a lot of land deals, land development deals. But as you mentioned, Inspirex has really become front and center for me throughout my journey of multifamily. I've really kind of answered a calling, basically. And that calling is to help others and serve others more in a capacity as a life coach or a high performance coach, of helping others improve their life, right? People who feel stuck, people who just sit around and go, man, I feel like I was meant for so much more. What am I doing in the daily grind? And I'm coming in and helping those people level up, whether it's personally or professionally. I'm helping them level up.
And in preparation, when you were moved to begin Inspirex, and as you tackle other benchmarks and new deals, new real estate deals you have coming up, how do you personally, mentally prepare to elevate your mindset every time you're reaching a new level or you've taken a new aim?
Each new level requires a redefined vision of my mindset, my habits, right? So I do what I've been doing for years now. I get up, I have a daily routine. I make sure I'm in the right mindset for everything. I take my time. I'm not trying to be anybody I'm not. I'm not trying to do anything I'm not. People bring me deals all the time. I constantly look at deals. I'm constantly evaluating. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But
How are you managing everything? Because you'll get a deal. I mean, I'll get a deal at 4 a.m. and then, another, and they're coming throughout the day. And if they're good, you've got to make a decision fairly quickly. I mean, we have teams for that to help. But ultimately, if they're waiting on your vote, are you structuring your day, and how are you priming yourself for the day as you move through building Inspirex and property acquisitions?
yeah, absolutely. So time blocking. Time blocking is huge. And I have a wonderful partner. My wife is pretty much running things behind the scenes. She is amazing at organizational skills. And that's something that I lack in. I'm not quite as organized, right? I'm kind of all over the place sometimes. I'm a great communicator. I'm a great thinker, idea, creativity. But when it comes to organizing, I have to rely on her to help me with the calendar. But I also have teams of people that I work with. And so I rely heavily on my team, right? It's not just a one man show. I rely heavily on time blocking on my calendar, setting aside every single morning. My routine is the same. Every morning I get up. First thing I do is, I pray, meditate for 15, 20, 30 minutes. Then I go to the gym, 5 a.m. I'm at the gym. Usually back from the gym by around 7 a.m. Do a few things, get my day started, but I have to time block and spend a little bit of time on emails, a little bit of time looking at deals, a little bit of time sending out emails and updates. I have meetings every single day of the week, but I've tried to, work on Inspirex 3 days a week and multifamily and land and other opportunities other days of the week. Sometimes that gets bumped around and moved around, but really the key to all of it is planning your day. Every single day when you get up, have a plan. If you don't have a plan, that's where chaos ensues. That's where man, I feel like I got nothing done. I've got 20 things to do and worked a little bit on each one of them and I didn't really accomplish anything. That's when you get up every morning instead and you go, what's my plan today? What are the 3 things that are needle movers? And I write those down every single morning.
So you're running your day so it doesn't run you.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's something that I got to keep myself on the rails every day, because there's always something that requires your attention, especially being a parent. As you know, there's always that pull and a million directions, and that's something that I know that I can be better at as far as maintaining the discipline. I set out with good intentions, right, when I start the day. I write them down. I prime in the morning. I write them down, and then the day starts happening sometimes, and I get off the rails, and I got to constantly get back on them. When you're evaluating asset management companies, because you have properties in multiple states, correct? Your commercial portfolios. When you're evaluating asset management companies, what specific traits in their online presence, culture, and overall positioning catch your attention when you're considering them for hire? Are you looking for folks that are like you, or what are you looking for in them when you're looking to hire an asset management company?
First and foremost, a proven track record. If there's anything I learned from management companies and working with, I got to think about it. I've got properties in, I believe, 4 different states. And so we've got my smallest property is 8 doors, and then my largest is 415. And when you look at, so, I'm all over the place. I've got part-time. So like 8 doors, just have one person managing that, and it's part-time. I've got a 20 unit, and that's the exact same way. You have a part-time property manager. Those requirements are drastically different than a 152 unit or a 415. You need full-time on-site property managers, and they're not the same. They're absolutely not the same. I have definitely learned that someone who can manage 415 units may not be able to manage 20 units, and vice versa, because the experiences are different. The requirements are different. The needs are different. And I have seen property management companies fail because they say, well, we manage, 60 unit and 100 unit. And so they get hired on for 300 unit, and you end up firing them very quickly because they can't do it.
They don't have the systems for it.
They don't have the systems for it. They think they can do it. So, one of the big things is, have you managed a property this size before is huge.
Yeah.
Also where they're at, because a lot of property management companies, they're local. There's some that are just local, but then there's ones that are nationwide, and they will always try to go, oh, I can manage a property in that area. Well, if they don't already have a presence in the area, what they're going to do is they're going to try to hire somebody, somebody who's probably new, somebody who they're going to train. That's another thing that's important. And then the other thing I look for is I will have them underwrite the property and tell me, how would you run this property, and show me where you're going to spend money and how you're going to save us money and how you're going to market the properties. And so they'll put together a proposal and show me what they're going to do. So those are the key things I look for.
And how they're going to add value, right?
Absolutely.
What they're
right. Well, and so the add value plan kind of comes into play depending on my plan. Is it a class B property? Is it a class C property? How much value add is there in the property? But one of the really big things is, because they may not necessarily add value as far as like, we're going to renovate every apartment, right?
Sure,
I'm going to run the asset management team, and we may run the construction crew that does that. Property management may have a small role in that. I want to see how they're going to market the properties, how they're going to keep the occupancy rates high, and where they're going to save us money.
And keep adverse risk out.
Absolutely.
Their screening and proven strategy. Like you said, that they're proven in the area, and then they've proved that they've done the same with their KPIs on similar properties in the same area, right?
Yep. And the KPIs is probably one of the most important things. It is, I think, one of the single most important things you can have with a property management company. You absolutely cannot rely on them to tell you things are going great. You need KPIs. You need to be able to see the numbers on a weekly basis.
So they don't lie.
If you cannot see the numbers on a weekly basis, then you're cruising for trouble down the road, because when things go wrong, you won't see it quick enough to bail yourself out.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're watching weekly numbers, you're going to be able to catch it much sooner.
And be proactive, right? Instead of reactive.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And what key message or value proposition would an asset management company or a property management company have to do in order to stand out and win your business as a client after you've already looked at their online presence and you've seen some supporting documents? But what is it that stands out in a company that would make you want to hire them?
Their business plan on what they're going to do with my property, right? Because any good property management company is going to have a business plan. They're going to take a look at our budget, and they're going to say, here's what we would do. And that, number one, is their business proposal and how they should be giving me a business plan, very detailed on what they're going to do. And then also the person that's going to run it. Like, okay, Do you already have somebody in the area that we can move over? If they're saying, oh, well, we're going to hire somebody, that could be an issue, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they don't know how they're going to perform yet.
Right. And you know what, that doesn't always, the business proposal and all the metrics and the interview process doesn't always work perfect, because I've gotten people into property management. We've hired people, and after 3 months we fired them and had to go to another property management. And what's crazy about that is I've had the same property management company on two different properties, let's say 70 miles from each other, doing a completely different job
Hmm.
because of the people. So we end up firing them on one property, hiring them on another property
Yeah.
because they were different people.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
struggled with the same thing. I think
Yeah.
that's the hardest part sometimes about starting in a new area is finding the boots on the ground, right? I mean, your good property managers are like unicorns for me anyway. And then you said you've had to part ways with asset management companies before. What are a couple of the examples where there were poor performance where you had to part ways with an asset management company?
Not delivering things on time, right? Not renovating properties, constantly going back. When you have asset management company, it's probably the most important thing is your turnaround. So your loss to lease is low. And as soon as somebody moves out, you need somebody in there, depending on what you're doing, to turn that apartment around so it's back on the market in 2 weeks
Yeah.
or a week or a month. If you're going to renovate it, right? If you're doing floors and appliances and countertops, things like that, it may be 4 weeks, which we've done. I've had an apartment complex where we were turning around one apartment a month, completely renovating it.
Hmm.
But if you're not renovating it, from a week to 2 weeks, that apartment should be back rented. We should have a plan, and it should be turned around. And when you have asset management that's not delivering, they're not doing parts, people aren't showing up, you keep going back and you go, okay, what's the ETA on this apartment being ready? Well, we're waiting on parts, because you have to keep parts on hand.
Yeah.
It's all about the KPIs, and it's all about the numbers, making sure that you're hitting those timelines.
And they're delivering on what they said
And
they were going to.
absolutely. And what you'll see is people being spread too thin between multiple properties. That maybe I'm a customer, there's a different customer across the street, same property management company, I'm not as important. And so things are falling by the wayside, but then your loss to lease is higher and your investors aren't quite as happy. So you need to find somebody who's going to get the job done in a timely fashion.
Yeah, and make that decision quick, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then from your perspective, what distinguishes the asset or property management companies that are struggling from the ones that are thriving?
Long-term partners must exhibit reliability, responsiveness, and proactive problem solving, right? And they need to be aligned with us on the growth mindset. And another thing too is communication,
Yeah.
staff training. Those are all super important.
And the relationships too, for me. Once you've got somebody you work well, you communicate well. If there's a mishap, you can correct them, right? A lot of times, if they're reasonable. But some of the relationships I've had, you got to work with them. You got to talk to them a few times a week. You might as well enjoy it and have somebody you have that relationship with also.
Absolutely.
And then you mentioned earlier that while you expected people, when you first started doing the talks and conferences, when you first started talking with people, you thought they would be more interested in learning about syndicate investing and getting technical, right? On that side, how did you do it? How did you get to 9 figures or more and growing to assets under management? But you found that the conversations often veered towards mindset development. Can you share more about why you think that is?
Absolutely. So one of the things that you very quickly find in commercial real estate is that mindset is really, really important. And I think people naturally gravitate toward mindset discussions because no amount of technical knowledge can overcome internal limiting beliefs, right? Mindset governs how people apply knowledge and skill, turning potential into tangible results.
So without the mindset, the technical, you can't have one without the other, right? Was that true?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mastering mindset it precedes technical mastery, right? Without belief in my capability and my technical knowledge, without belief in my capability, my knowledge would remain untapped.
Right.
My mindset is what unlocks my potential to execute, learn, and apply effectively.
And to take action, right? Because
Absolutely.
if they don't believe they can, they're going to sit there and read and learn all these things, but they'll never.
Yep. Take massive action.
Yeah.
A leader's mindset profoundly influences core culture of productivity and the overall success.
Yeah.
So when you're in some of those roles and people are looking to you for things, the leadership mind role sets the tone for accountability, innovation, resilience, and growth.
Mm-hmm. And results, right? And would you agree that leadership mindset within an organization, I think you were saying that overall the leadership mindset in an organization does influence company culture over productivity. I mean, even the mindset of a leader has the power to change an entire company. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And it's crazy. So I have so many examples of this, right? But when you have bad leaders, it just trickles down, and you have bad employees and you have bad outcomes and bad circumstances. And one of the things that I think makes an amazing leader is taking responsibility. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Jocko Willink and his book, Extreme Ownership. And the book is so true. And it talks about anytime you have issues come up within companies, any kind of issue, a good leader takes responsibility for the issues, whether it's their fault or not. If an employee did something completely wrong, everybody knows it's the employee's fault. The leader takes responsibility for what's happening and works with the team to fix it and to come up with solutions. And I see so often with companies I work with where leadership does not do that. They're worried about their bottom line. They're worried about their agenda. They play the blame game. Well, you didn't do this right. You didn't do that right. They're not worried about the overall company itself. They're not worried. They don't take any responsibility whatsoever. And to see that resonate through the ranks when you are on the outside, it's mind blowing.
Mm-hmm. Could be toxic.
Absolutely, it is.
And is this sort of what led you to begin consulting with Inspirex? Once you uncovered that the mindset was really, that was the momentum, that was the seed, that was everything.
It absolutely is. And it was not just from a corporate standpoint and a company standpoint. It was on a very personal level as well. I began to help a lot of people around me that were trying to get into multifamily properties. And a lot of what people lack isn't the skills to buy and operate multifamily. It's the courage. Maybe courage isn't the right word. It's the confidence, the experience, the imposter syndrome that creeps in.
The belief, right?
The belief. There are so many things that affects everything you do that really steers you in life. And so there were so many people reaching out to me, like, how did you do this?
Yeah.
How can I get to where you are? And my answer was never, I'm an amazing underwriter.
Yeah.
I'm fantastic at finding deals.
Yeah.
That was never my answer. My answer was always, there is no stop button. I never quit.
Yeah.
I set my goals and I go until I achieve them. I will find a way to persevere. I surround myself with the right people, which is extremely important, but I also am in the right mindset, right? I would have to work with people and like, why don't you think you can do this? What do you think you need help in? And so many people would come to me like, I can't do this because I don't have money, or I can't do this because I don't know how to do this, or nobody's going to listen to me.
They were looking for reasons to sort of support what their belief was.
Well, and that's it. So your beliefs create your reality, right? If you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't.
And you can find evidence either way, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's really the inspiration for Inspirex. Is I began to help people in a way that just lit me up, right? It lit a fire in me to be able to see the good I was doing and serve people. And there were so many conversations in the beginning when I would sit with people, because I had a lot of people offer to pay me in the beginning and want me to be their mentor. And I would never do that. I would always say, let's just have a cup of coffee and have lunch, or have a meeting somewhere. And let me see how I can help you. Let's spend some time together. And I would do this for people all the time. And by the time we were done, the joy in their face, the excitement I could see really just got me going. And I began to realize that, man, I really love helping people. Forget multifamily for a minute. I enjoy helping people that I would rather do this than multifamily. Now, I love multifamily. I love doing the commercial real estate. And like I said, I'm going to continue to do that. But really, I have found that I'm definitely passionate about helping people.
Yeah. And can you share a few impactful stories that are top of mind from the few people that you've helped? I mean, you've helped a lot of people, but some recent stories that stand out to you where you made an impact on people?
Absolutely. Inspirex allows me to be a mentor. It allows me to be that mentor I needed in my own journey. And so there are so many people that come along and they feel stuck and they're stuck in a job. They want more. They maybe want to quit their W-2. I've got multiple people I work with right now that, one person is an entrepreneur who wants to transfer to a corporate job. And the other one is just the opposite. They want to quit their corporate job and become an entrepreneur. And it is so much mindset. And then there's another one. I've got a student in Australia who is kind of an entrepreneur, a real estate investor, but also works in physical fitness as a trainer.
Wow.
And she does some amazing things. And so they all have different challenges. There is no one person where every story is the same, right? They're all different. They all have their own challenges. Some of them are more personal life than professional. And really the one thing that stands out is that we always start off with goal setting.
Yeah.
And getting clarity on what they want. Because what people don't realize is, you got to break these patterns of self-doubt, fear, failure, perfectionism, and imposter syndrome. And everybody struggles with that. No matter what your story is, everybody struggles with those things. And you have to challenge the narrative. But we start off with goal settings and getting absolute clarity on your goals. Because if somebody says, well, I want my own business, I want to make $5 million a year. Great. How are you going to do that? And if you don't know how you're going to do that, which it's okay not to know, but it's just a wish at this point, right? The more you write down your goals and the clearer you can be about your goals, the better chance you have of attaining your goal. And what I mean by that is if somebody makes the exact same statement where I'm out my own business, I want to make $5 million. How are you going to do that? And I will keep asking, how are you going to do that? Until they will drill down and think about it so much that they will actually break it down into smaller, manageable, realistic steps with a shorter time frame, right? You can make those micro steps, micro transitions, micro changes, Kaizen, which is Japanese for small incremental, actions taken to make progress. And that's really the core of everything. If you can learn to set your goals and get clear on your goals, then we can work on all the other stuff and it kind of falls into place.
And
go ahead.
Do you think that the mindset is often the bridge between where they are now and their goals? And because they know what they need to do, right? I mean, if they were to study it, they were doing research, I got to get from here to New Zealand. And so I've got to, here's what I need to do, and here's my mode of transit, here's how I need to get there. And they can probably all tell you what they might need to do. I need to start making calls, I need to, develop or whatever it is that they're building. But the reason, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they probably haven't done it yet is because they didn't believe maybe that they could, or now is not the right time. Is that fair to say?
Percent. And now is not the right time is an excuse that lots and lots of people make, including myself. I've done that. I said, now's not the right time. I need to learn more. I need to educate myself more. You eventually realize you have analysis paralysis and that you only learn by doing, getting things done, making progress. If you're not learning, if you're not taking action, you're not moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to take some type of action. So I've helped entrepreneurs recognize these patterns, challenging their internal narratives through strategic coaching sessions that replace fear-based thinking with actionable confidence.
So sort of a rewiring on their
Absolutely.
beliefs and
Yeah.
what their definite chief aim is, right?
Absolutely. And it's not just rewiring their mindset. There are so many other things that do play into it, right? Some people have a great mindset already, but they can't figure out maybe how to make progress. And some of that may be their peer group. Maybe you spend the most time with people who are pulling you down instead of lifting you up. And sometimes all people need is to change your peer group. Put yourself in a room with people that are more successful than you. And sometimes that's really all it takes is somebody from the outside to take a look and help you figure out what's holding you back. What's a belief or what's a situation that you're in that's holding you from accomplishing what you need. And when you ask the right questions, you can really get down deep to what's holding people back and figure out a plan to move forward.
And with some of the folks that you've helped recently, have you seen some fast changes? Once it clicked
Absolutely.
for somebody, you help them
Yeah.
reignite, refocus on what they're passionate about. And once they're back on that, they're reignited, then you're helping them with that push they need sort of out of the nest, right? To get momentum to start taking those small steps or that imperfect action to do the dang thing, right? Whatever they're trying to do to help them do the thing that's going to make them happy, whatever that is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We offer tailored coaching sessions designed to identify core challenges and transform them into actionable growth strategies. And, you know, the programs we offer right now are a 6-week Kickstarter program, which you work with me one-on-one for 6 weeks, or even a 12-week transformation package. And everybody needs coaching, right? Whether you're LeBron James or Dean Graziosi or Tony Robbins, right? Everybody has a coach they work with because people from the outside can look at you and evaluate and just talk through things and see where you're not doing something, or maybe see something that's holding you back and help you come up with new ideas and new things that can help transform your life. And that's why I tell people too is, masterminds are fantastic. I'm a member of multiple masterminds, and we have our own mastermind as well, where a mastermind is a part of, I encourage masterminds, right? Joining a group of like-minded people who are trying to accomplish similar things as you. It can be in the same profession, or it can be all different professions, but there's some commonality that brings you into that mastermind, and everybody has their area of expertise. And so whether you hire a coach or whether you're just part of a mastermind, you're able to bounce your ideas, to bounce your roadblocks off of other people and come up with new, fresh ideas and come up with new strategies and maybe new things to help push you forward.
As a collective, too.
As a collective.
Yeah.
Right. It's the collective mind.
I think I learned a lot about that from 16 Principles, and then later it was Think and Grow Rich, right, from Napoleon Hill. It's still one of my favorite books. I need to go back and reread it, and I'll have to bug you later about your mastermind because I need a collective, I need community. Sometimes it can feel like an island when you're in a startup or you're running a business, or you're the leader and you're in charge of all of it. It's really nice to get around other leaders sometimes and share leader stories and, just kind of iron sharpening iron.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better. Iron sharpening iron is exactly what it is. And when you're sitting in a mastermind, you're able to, typical masterminds are 2 days, right? You don't just join a Zoom call or anything like that. For those who don't know, typically masterminds, you want to try to meet in person on a quarterly basis, and you sit in a room and you spend 2 long days together, or sometimes they're just a day, but you talk about your wins, you talk about your losses, and you talk about your roadblocks. And if you ask the right questions, and then everybody in the room has their own expertise and can give you feedback, it is so powerful. I've been a part of multiple masterminds, and nothing will level you up faster in life than being a part of a mastermind.
That's exciting. And so is your work and what you're doing to help people.
Thank you.
And what are some more, with companies, what are the patterns that you see in companies that are holding them back? We talked about individuals and some of their individual challenges, but what do you think are some company-wide mindset challenges or patterns that you help companies with?
Honestly, politics and leadership. Leadership is the number one. Politics, I see politics interfere far too much in companies. And what I mean by that is, when I take a job, I'm there to work. I'm not there for you to teach me like I'm a child and tell me what's right and what's wrong. I'm here to share my skills and collectively work toward a common goal with the company. Mm-hmm. And there are too many companies out there that are really not functioning anymore for the right reasons. And a lot of politics takes over, and it's just a struggle to get anything done. The other really big thing that interferes with companies is just bad leadership.
Yeah.
Bad attitudes and proximity. Proximity is power. And what I mean by that is there's some studies out there where if you sit within 15 feet of a high performer, you're 60% more likely to perform better just by that proximity of a high performer. Mm-hmm. In turn, if you have somebody that's really a low performer and toxic to the environment, it actually has a greater impact to the other direction. Wow. And it can pull the whole team down
faster,
right?
Than it would if somebody had a good.
Absolutely.
Wow.
If you got one high performer, but you got a toxic environment, it can pull everybody down. And one of the best pieces of advice I've ever seen for companies and for hiring is hire fast, fire fastest. And no, I think I said that wrong. Hire fast, promote faster, and fire fastest. I got to think about it. I think I got that completely screwed up.
Well, what I wanted to ask is, and I think I shared this, that you and I sort of share a similar experience growing up, gathering what I've heard on some of your interviews, some of the early hardships, those early lessons in resilience, and that fire that burns, watch me. We have a similar background that way. And for the teens and young adults facing adversity today, what message would you have for them?
Okay. For young adults, I would say your current struggles do not define your future. They prepare you for it. Embrace each challenge, develop resilience, and recognize adversity as your greatest teacher. Right? To my 18-year-old self, I'd advise trust yourself more, seek mentors early, never fear failure, and know your worth. Everything you desire is on the other side of believing you're enough.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Rob.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time today.
No, thank you for having me. It's been fantastic.